Good evening. Thank you for being here with us for the HOLO Movement wave. In the beginning, before the birth of our universe, there was stillness and silence. And then something vibrated. The original primordial Om vibrated and sent out a wave. And the wave became reality and brought us here together today on the shores of Ibiza. We're very grateful. I'd like to say a couple of words to all of you here, and especially our Spanish participants. Bienvenidos a la ola. Lo siento que el programa está en inglés, pero os queremos mucho y encantados de hablar en español luego con todos vosotros, pero bienvenidos. And thank you all for being here. Yes, beautiful Ibiza. Why would we choose Ibiza? For just about every reason imaginable. Yeah, I know, it's a party island. It goes way back. They even say the god Bess used to be kind of a party animal himself and started the whole trajectory. But of course we know, along with Bess, there was the goddess Tanit, and she handled the real operations of the spiritual life of the island way back when. Bess was kind of fond of wine and dancing and set the party scene. He got credit for naming the island, Ibosim originally, the island of Bess. It's kind of typical. The guys don't do much, hang out, drink wine, and party. They get the places named for them, and the women do all the hard work, right? Like Tani did way back then, taking care of the crops and the operations. Anyway, history moves on. I first set foot on this fair island in 1973, over a half century ago. And even at that time, I felt our world was in crisis. I'd had a sociology professor in school show me that the exponential change, the growth of population, of armaments, of environmental deterioration, of technology, of so many factors, was an exponential curve turning upward on the scale of time. And he said quite literally, we are running out of time. The time is now. That was a half century ago, and I'm not sure we've made a whole lot of progress since. So if the time was now back then, it's really time now. And this is the place to do it. The crossroads of cultures, of history, a Mediterranean stopping point for the trade routes, the favorable winds, and the fair agriculture and climate of Ibiza. So why not here? Why not now? Why not today? Let's ride that wave together. So it began last year. We ignited the HOLO Movement in Sedona, Arizona. Many thanks to all of you who were there last year and helped organize it. Here's a little photo of the group, of the ignition of the HOLO Movement. And from there we have moved on, riding our wave. And here we are today. The HOLO Movement. It is a social transformation movement. And the important word is movement. It's a wave. It flows, it moves, it captures all who want to be a part of it. It is not an organization. It is not a corporation. It's not an entity of any sort. It's a movement open to all, welcomes all, and calls to everyone through the holotropic attractor, the call to wholeness. We go into chaos and everything seems out of order. Yet that's the creative moment. The depth of our crisis is the birth of our beginning, of a new creation, of social order, and that is now. And to take us out of chaos, there is always an attractor, something that pulls the chaos together into a new transformed order. And in this case, it's the holotropic attractor, the call in our hearts and souls to come together because we know we're together. We know we are all one. The universe, that initial vibration, no matter how large, no matter how vast the interpretations or multiverses or universes upon universes in parallel form that we can imagine, it's all one. No matter how big, expansive, or eternal, there's just one. And the one is us. We're all together in the movement of this wave, and it is for everyone. Even the Dalai Lama seemed to take a liking to the HOLO Movement, thanks to our fair group led by Olivia Hansen, who made the trek to Dharamsala and give His Holiness a copy of the book. He was very fond of David Bohm, and David Bohm is featured widely in the book because he was the man who coined the term HOLO Movement. And David Bohm said that, yes, it looks very different. That initial vibration of consciousness, unseen, unheard in the stillness, seems quite distinct from the tables, the chairs, and all of us sitting here tonight. But we are all one, and we're all interconnected by the flow of the HOLO Movement. So it was physicist David Bohm who coined the word, and he also postulated a new theory of quantum physics back in 1952. And we know that his mentor, Albert Einstein, had a little bit of difficulty understanding or believing Bohm's theory of oneness because it required non-locality, the interconnectedness of all things instantaneously. I think it's the most amazing concept I've ever heard. If you take two particles, entangle them, give them the same properties, and then you separate them in an accelerator over thousands of light years, and you change one particle and the other one that it has been paired with, even if it's thousands of light years away, will instantaneously change and do the same thing that the other particle has been adjusted to. It's fascinating. Einstein said, well, we can't have those kind of messages beyond the speed of light, but in fact they are, and that's now been validated. And the Dalai Lama, who called David Bohm his scientific guru, knows in his heart too that we are all one. So, a wave. And why now? Because if not now, when? If not now, what will happen? The time is overdue for now. And so here to show us the urgency of now is a diagram, my interpretation of the wave. It flows in phases of octaves, 7 stages turning into 8, like the scale of music going from do to do, a new octave. You hit the same notes, but you're raising the frequency all the time. Each octave doubles the frequency. And so at the beginning of time, we had the big breath, the big vibration, the initial flow of the HOLO movement. It gave us light, particles, atoms and molecules forming the explicate order of the universe. And then it hit a trough in the wave. And it's not natural for the wave to change directions at the trough. It requires some kind of almost miraculous moment to make that turn. And that first or second miracle, the first being the initiation of the universe, the birth of being. But the second great miracle then was the appearance of life here on planet Earth, at least from our humble human perspective. And life gave the ascending wave growth into plants, animals, humans, and then reached the apex of the ascendant moment of the wave. And again, another miracle was required. Here, the dawn of self-reflective human consciousness. And we started our long journey. Silly old hominid apes that we were, struggling around the earth for survival. A lot of that was embedded in us. Our DNA today still carries a little bit of that fear and scarcity. But we're different. We're on the dawn, the cusp. Okay, our civilization went through its various phases, communal systems, the axial age in different ages according to the religions and the spiritual traditions. But when we began to think, why are we here? What is the meaning of life? And so many beautiful answers came forth at different times in history, leading finally to an industrial age. For better or worse, it brought us to another trough, where now we are suffering from an overdose of materialism, and we've really lost sight of that original stillness, of that sacred notion that gave birth to consciousness. So now it is time for nothing less than the fourth great miracle in the history of the universe. The dawn of the universe, the appearance of life, our consciousness here and now. So that's why it's now, that's why it's so important, that's why it's here in Ibiza, and that's why the flow of the wave goes through us all. The HOLO Movement is based on a theory called E equals HF, energy equals H, Planck's constant, times frequency. In this equation, that little h is the key factor. The H is actually action. And it is the input of action into the universe that makes this all happen. And so it is definitely time to act and heighten our frequency and multiply that together and give us new energy. And this is really where science and spirit merge. And if we are going to be all come one, and we're going to dissolve our divisiveness, probably the first place to do so is between science and spirituality. And this equation shows us that. Max Planck, who figured out the little h factor, himself said, behind the emergence of the material world, there is a force. And we must assume that that force comes from a conscious and intelligent mind. Max Planck, the founder of quantum physics, telling us it all came from a conscious mind. This is the merger of science and spirit, and this is the call to action for every one of us to serve the whole and do what we can to make the great fourth miracle of all times happen before our eyes. So we do what we can. We form holons of change. We work together, and we're going to carry the day. So last year in Sedona, in our little logo here for the HOLO Movement, and we talked for 4 days, and we wanted to see what came out in that center point of overlapping collaboration. And I thought it might be something like impact or energy or vision. And what came forth from the whole group was joy. And I thought, really? Joy? Okay. You know, I confess, I was born in a very small town, in a very rural community, back in the 1950s where the Protestant ethic sort of prevailed and joy wasn't part of the scenario there. My parents, struggling, trying to survive, all the rest, I don't think they ever told me they loved me when I was a little kid. I don't remember getting kisses. I don't remember joy being a part of life. And then all of a sudden, here I am at this advanced age, at this critical time, and joy is the emergent center of the HOLO Movement. And I thought, really? Me? I have to learn to be joyous at this point in life? Wow. Is that really like okay, you know? I mean, here we are, all quite privileged, doing very well, and we see what's going on in the world, the horrors in Ukraine, in the Middle East, in Africa, people suffering, dying, horrible lives, and we can be joyful? We can. Because that's what the original vibration brought. For us to be here now and celebrate together and feel joy. But not joy of taking a selfie down on the beach and admiring how cool we look. No, it's the joy that comes from our service to the whole and helping others. And when we realize that we are because everyone else is and they give us our reality, and that we're all in this together, and the biggest joy, the best purpose, the deepest meaning we will ever find is to serve the good of the whole, then it's an emergent new nature of joy that bubbles up in our hearts and says, yes, if we're going to affirm in our meditation, why not be joyful? Why not spread the joy? You know, David Brooks recently wrote an article, and he said, our society has become a conspiracy against joy. We're so divided, we're so bickering, so bitter, that joy has almost lost its meaning. Rainn Wilson, the author of Soul Bloom, will show his video on Sunday night. Joy is a force, a choice, a decision to be made. Joy is a superpower. Let it rain, let it run, let it move the wave forward. And yes, let's be joyous and share it with others through service to the good of the whole. So, be joyful. And we have values that we want to put in our community service. We have unity. We're working together. A vision of planetary thriving and joyful, purposeful belonging. That's what we want the Holons, the HOLO Movement to come together and really be. And at the end of the day, we have the wave. What brings, what makes a wave? The energy, the wind, the stillness rising. And in the end, we, our souls, are waves, ripples on the surface of the grand sea of spirit. And the deeper, broader, and more vast that sea of spirit, the stronger and more powerful our wave will be. Yes, maybe we're only the froth, but we'll make that wave. We'll bring it to the shores of Ibiza. We'll ride it together like valiant surfers out of history with a new message. Let's be joyful. Let's keep our balance and ride the wave into a thriving future for all. Thank you very much.